now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
Hardship. My grandmother would go through it every month to pay her insurance bill. First, she would handwrite a paper check, in cursive. Then, using her own tongue, she would wet a stamp for an envelope. Today, however, we need not weary our hands and tongues. Today, we can pay our Geico bill with the Geico app. Away with hardship, in with bill pay on the Geico app. Thank you.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. It's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. It is Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and that means, as always, no BS job search advice. On this show, I try to talk with you candidly about the things that you're doing that subvert your job search. Because, frankly, companies are hiring, despite what you may be reading about in the newspaper. Yes, there are fewer jobs than there were before, but, again, companies are hiring. As a matter of fact, many people are getting multiple job offers. So why isn't that the case with you? Now, if it's a skills deficiency, fix it. But more often than not, it's behavioral stuff that you're doing that's really getting in the way of you getting hired. So I want to talk with you about a couple of the things that I see pretty regularly in experienced job hunters that stand in the way of them getting hired. And I'm just going to mention one to get it out of the way pretty early, and that is you call Monday morning at 9 o'clock and say, hey, what's going on? And you do that with recruiters, you do it with employers, and who wants to hear from you Monday at 9 o'clock? You know nothing's going on yet, but what you're trying to do is get on someone's radar, and all you're doing is annoying them. This happens to be so regularly with different people, it's ridiculous. And I'm at the point where I don't take calls from them because they're just wasting my time. Please, don't waste other people's time. You know, be respectful of the fact that other people are trying to help you and thousands of others concurrently. And don't just call gratuitously. Have a point in mind. Another thing that people do that really gets in the way of them getting hired is acting defeated or depressed on their interviews and in their networking situations. Now, there's a story from many years ago from a veteran guy that had hired a lot of people from me. He was out of work, had been on more than a dozen interviews, really wasn't getting callbacks, and I invited him to my home to sit down and just see how he was interviewing. And he just had been on so many without results that he was saying the right words, but he was speaking in a way that basically said, I'm lost, or I'm defeated. And no one wants to hire, and excuse this very blunt way of describing it, no one wants to hire a loser. And that's the way you project when you carry yourself in a way that basically says, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I failed at so many of these interviews. I'm not getting callbacks. I'm lost, and that's the way people actually talk. So, instead of just allowing yourself to lose opportunities by acting defeated, depressed, or just downright boring on your interviews, I want to encourage you to find people to network with that's specifically around the idea of supporting one another, venting your frustrations, and getting advice. Now, one of the nice things about Google Plus is that you're able to do this in what I believe they call a hangout. That is, you can get 10 people together and have a video session with all 10 of them. You can do it by phone. There are services like Free Conference Call where you can set up sessions with groups of individuals and just speak with one another and do it on a regular basis. One of the hard things is for many individuals, family stops being a place of support because your spouse or life partner starts asking you, so how's it going? And it becomes like a dagger instead of being any sort of a feeling of support. So, you have to find it where you can. And pick out people in networking groups, pick out friends, pick out other people that you know who are looking for work, and say the tough stuff to them, because that's really what friends need to do during difficult times, is say the tough, pointed stuff that helps people get on track. You may want to hire a coach. Yes, I do coaching, and I do hourly sessions. I do I have a VIP program, but find someone who can coach you, and look for the advice to get yourself on track regularly. Another thing people do that really gets in the way of getting themselves hired is just applying for jobs that they're not qualified for. You know what we call this in my office? You know what I've been calling this for years? Spam. You're spamming resumes. You're flipping resumes like burgers in a fast food restaurant, hoping that someone's going to bite. And all you're doing is wasting time. And frankly, for most of us, time is a very precious commodity. And as I mentioned before, just sending out a resume or calling purposelessly steals time from us. That just defeats what you're trying to do. So instead of just sending out a resume gratuitously, make sure that what you're doing is sending out targeted resumes for specific jobs that you're interested in, or, and we'll get to this a little bit later, the specific organizations that you're interested in targeting, instead of just sending out a pointless resume. Another thing that people do is they only focus on jobs, and they don't really focus on firms. And I want to speak about that next, because there's a tie-in to what I was just saying about spam. So often people just send out that same resume over and over again, and they send out the resume for specific jobs, or they post it on job boards, or they respond to sites like Indeed or Simply Hired, and wait for the phone to ring. And instead, one of the things that you need to be doing is networking, and another thing you need to be doing is targeting companies that you want to work for. Once you have a firm that you want to work for, you need to find a hiring manager who would be interested in someone with your experience. And that's why one of the advantages to having a large LinkedIn network is the ability to find people within those organizations that you want to work for. One way to have a substitute for a large network is join as many as 50 large groups on LinkedIn, because then you can send messages through the system to people who might be able to help you. So again, a mistake that you may be making, I hope you're not, but way too many people do make. Another thing that people tend to do is they don't pay attention to their online presence. They don't really look at whether their LinkedIn profile, whether their Twitter feed, whether their blog, whether their Facebook account is doing things to support them in their job search. Now, most people know that you don't post stupid things on Facebook, right? Employers are looking at Facebook very regularly for background on people. But does your LinkedIn profile seem stale? Are there things that you could be doing to insert keywords there so that you can be found for the roles that you're interested in? So those are a couple of the things that you can be doing to improve your circumstances and not harm your search. Now I want to talk with you about some of the jobs I'm recruiting for. These are all domestic U.S. They're in a host of fields. And they all require that someone be in the U.S. Rather than just want to get here, and that you have the legal right to work here. So the first job I have is based in Dallas. It's for an asset-based lending field examiner. And it's for someone with at least 5 years of collateral asset-based examiner experience who's open to 50% travel. That's a job that's paying to about $95,000 on a base plus bonus. And now I have a series of jobs in Schaumburg, Illinois, that's looking for people who are local. The first one's for a flex developer that's going up to a base of 110 plus bonus. They're looking for 8 years of development experience, Flash Builder 4, for IDE or plug-in on an Eclipse platform, team lead experience, again, someone local to the area. A lead web applications engineer, 2 to 3 years experience administering a Red Hat Linux and Windows-based operating environment with Apache and WebLogic, a knowledge of networking concepts, single sign-on infrastructure. There are a number of preferences, including Adobe Day CRX and CQ technologies, and SharePoint preferred. It's going to a base of 100 plus bonus. I have a role for an ETL developer in Schaumburg. 5 years of ETL experience, 4 years of PL SQL, Unix scripting, AutoSys, Netezza experience is a plus. That's going up to about 105 on a base plus bonus. I have roles for compliance consultants in Charlotte, North Carolina, for people with at least 6 years of experience working in capital markets or derivatives environments, with at least 2 years of compliance experience supporting futures or listed options. Direct compliance experience is preferred. However, they'll take people who have experience in legal, finance, operations, or audit areas. Must have a knowledge of FINRA, NFA, CFTC, and other applicable rules. These are consulting assignments in Charlotte for which we could pay about $62 per hour corp to corp. It would be a little less on a W-2. Also have a role for a principal software engineer in Schaumburg, 4 years of SQL experience, including lead experience in a SQL environment. Also needs to have data modeling and Unix scripting background, AutoSys, and SDLC experience. These are going to about 105 on a base plus bonus. I have a number of other jobs in New York City. Let me just get them in front of me. I have a senior networking position in Manhattan, someone who has Cisco certification and Microsoft certification strongly preferred, but they'll take someone who has experience with the major IP protocols as well as Cisco PICs, well-spoken, experience in large enterprise or service provider networks. I don't have a salary on this, but they're requiring people with the legal right to work here. I have a development lead, Java-based development architecture, code reviews, program management, and business analysis. No need for event management experience. They just want someone with at least 7 years of experience in the financial services industry, focused on analysis, design, development, testing, and production support of web-based finance-oriented applications using J2EE technologies. These are going to about 150 on a base plus bonus. We'll also have a role in New York for a Java web developer with WebLogic experience to about 125 plus bonus. This is for a prime brokerage area, stumble over there, with web portal experience, Struts, Spring on the J2E WebLogic architecture. I have a number of other positions, and you can find my website, which is jeffaltman.com. Now, if you're qualified, interested, and available, please email your resume to me at thebiggamehunter@cisny.com. If you know anyone else who might fit one of these roles or any of the roles that you find on my website, invite them to forward a resume to me and just have them mention that they were referred by you, because I do pay an employee referral bonus if you refer someone to me who's hired. If you don't fit any of them, feel free to forward a resume, but in the subject line, put the phrase on spec. Tuesday through Friday, you can pick up audios of other jobs we're recruiting for at my website, jeffaltman.com. So come over there and look for the link to the audios. And while you're there, sign up for a complimentary subscription to No BS Job Search Advice e-zine and use a variety of the other tools and websites I refer people to in an effort to find leads for yourself. You can also find out about a number of my books there. So this is Jeff Altman. I'll be on next week with No BS Job Search Advice. I hope you find this week's show helpful, and I hope you have a great day. And by the way, it's my wedding anniversary. Yay! 12 years. Have a great day. Take care.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shades.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.